In addition to the various chain establishments scattered throughout the city, New Aberdeen had many popular local establishments which wound up playing significant roles in the events leading up to the 1950 quarantine. These establishments were either regular sites of intrigue or else places which were important to the lives of the people referenced and interviewed by Victor Jones. Chief among the important establishments for our purposes is the New Aberdeen Radio Network, from which the Victor Jones Radio Hour was broadcast. While not the only radio station original to the city, it was the first, and thus it was considered by citizens to be the gold standard for radio in New Aberdeen. In addition to Victor Jones's program and various licensed programs from other companies, there were a number of homegrown shows of varying genres, including the Tommy Tomlin Comedy Show and The Adventures of Adam Astro Space Explorer. Allegedly, these series had as large a following outside of New Aberdeen as within it, but it is unknown at this point if any recordings have survived. A search for tapes which preserved these programs is still ongoing. Nero's Place was the most exclusive nightclub in the entire city, open only to those who were famous or those who could afford the very high entrance fee. Like most establishments of the period, Nero's Place did not allow non-whites as patrons, no matter how wealthy or famous they were, but black musicians were frequently present as entertainment. The most significant performer here, though, was Patricia Heller, an entertainer known for her incredible stage presence and unparalleled singing voice. Part of her story will be told in this week's tape. Oddest of the popular establishments in New Aberdeen was the Golden Skies Nudist Resort, one of the few places in the state of Maine, if not the entire American Northeast, where social nudity was regularly practiced. Since nudism was not something generally spoken about in public during the Depression era, and admittedly not much has changed in the modern day, it is somewhat surprising how frequently Golden Skies winds up being mentioned in the tapes. This can largely be attributed to its location on Lake Orr. The lake became a hotbed of activity after sightings of its resident lake monster became known, and the land owned by Golden Skies in particular, from which the creature was first sighted, saw an increase in attendance from those so eager to see a monster that being seen in the altogether was a risk worth taking. Several people who appear throughout the tapes are believed to have been regular attendees even before the sightings began. This episode of the Victor Jones Radio Hour can be placed chronologically after the interview with Captain Joseph Blythe, but there is reason to believe that it did not air that following week. References are made to recent events which Jones claims to have previously reported on, despite there being no reference to them in the previous episode. Exactly how long the gap of time is remains unknown at this point. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Victor Jones Radio Hour, brought to you by Oyster Brand Toothpaste. It doesn't take much muscle to brush your pearly whites with Oyster Brand. As always, I'm Victor Jones. Thanks a million for tuning in. No guests this week, so as per usual, here's the week in review. Convictions of the smugglers caught at the Feldberg Company by the Enigma were passed on Tuesday, but some citizens do not believe that justice was truly served in full. Despite a wealth of evidence provided by the prosecution, it was determined that no connection between the smugglers and the Migliori family could be firmly established. Suspicion of greased palms in the court run rampant, but I have been instructed to remind our listeners that the New Aberdeen Radio Network has no official stance on these allegations. Whether backdoor dealings were at play or not, the result remains the same. The smugglers were sentenced to 10 years hard labor in New Aberdeen Penitentiary and begin their internment on Saturday. That's a lot of rocks to break, folks. You know, I've always wondered why they make prisoners break rocks, but I'm not in any particular rush to find out for myself. Maybe it's some form of rehabilitation I just don't understand. Construction on the Valorum skyscraper was unexpectedly halted on Sunday under circumstances which raise many questions. Official word from Valorum Industries says that, quote, unusually compelling natural forces, unquote, were responsible for the delay, apparently due to the thunderstorm which occurred that afternoon. When asked to clarify, Valorum representatives cited frequent lightning strikes as being the unusually compelling natural force, but did not elaborate further. It is true that the skyscraper was struck more times than any other building during the storm. Even in its unfinished state, the Valorum skyscraper is the tallest thing in New Aberdeen. However, lightning strikes alone do not account for how the exposed scaffolding at the top of the building has been emitting a pulsating blue glow since the storm ended. I bet most of you can see it out your window right now. Makes you wonder about that vague explanation. Unusual? Definitely. Compelling? No doubt. Natural? Vic Jones isn't so sure. How this will affect the completion of the building remains to be seen. And now, to break up the monotony of hearing my hypnotic voice, here's a little music, something I picked to match the tempo of the Valorum skyscraper's pulsating glow. Welcome back to the Victor Jones Radio Hour, brought to you by Oyster Brand Toothpaste. When you see food, you eat it. When you see plaque, you brush with Oyster Brand. That first C was spelled with an A, mind you. It's not really a joke that works on radio. Not that they listened when I told them that. Never mind, folks. Let's get back to the show. A bit of unfortunate news came to us earlier today. You may recall how I reported on Patricia Heller's big break. After years of singing in Nero's Place, she managed to land a deal with MGM that would take her all the way to Hollywood for their next big musical picture. Those dreams appear to have been dashed. On Thursday, Miss Heller was attacked by unknown assailants. The full extent of her injuries is unknown, but she is currently recovering in a location I will not be disclosing, lest her attackers try to finish what they started. This attack, unfortunately, was accompanied by news from MGM that a change in studio hierarchy resulted in the termination of their deal, since she was deemed too big of a financial risk as an unknown. If you're listening, Patty, those Hollywood hotshots don't know what a mistake they've made, and neither do the fellas who attacked you. My crew and I wish you a speedy recovery and encourage you not to give up hope. Clearer photographs of the monster said to be lurking in Lake Orr were printed in Wednesday's edition of New Aberdeen Daily. If you missed seeing them, well, I unfortunately can't show them to you on the radio, but I can sure as heck describe them, and what a sight they are! Those descriptions of something prehistoric were on the mark, folks. Though most of it is still beneath the water, we can clearly see a rounded back and long tail thrashing behind it. The head is at the end of a longish neck, and appears to be reptilian based on what little I can see of it. The edge of the shoreline can just be made out at the bottom of the image. Based on that, analysts have estimated the creature, if it is indeed a creature, to be at least 100 feet long, possibly more. The images, once again, are alleged to have been taken at the Golden Skies Nudist Resort, which has the skeptics suspicious of their authenticity. No doubt they smell a tourist trap, though why a nudist colony would need anything to lure folks in beyond the obvious has me stumped. Since Wednesday, however, the mystery of the Lake Orr monster has taken a potentially dark turn. I have in my possession a leaked document from Cobalt Labs, provided by a trusted source who wishes to remain anonymous. The document in question appears to be an in-house memorandum detailing the disappearance of a research vessel on the lake some 3 weeks ago as of Wednesday. The memo states the vessel was collecting rare earth elements from the lake bed when contact was lost at 0900 hours. The wreckage was recovered by Cobalt the following day when it washed up on the western shore and showed signs of having been, quote, attacked by a powerful biological force, possibly animal in nature, unquote. While it makes no mention of monsters, anything large and strong enough to sink a Cobalt ship would be hard to classify as anything else. You'll no doubt be hearing a denial from Cobalt following this broadcast, but I have faith in my source. It's your choice who to believe. On a lighter note, the new Aberdeen Women's Wrestling League continues to soar in popularity. We're even starting to see young ladies come from all parts of Maine for a shot in the ring. Who knew there were this many dames in the state so eager to have their pretty faces bashed through the back of their skulls? Despite some real contenders giving her a run for her money, Maria Aquila the Latina Eagle remains the star wrestler of the league, with the most victories to date. She's up for the city championship later this month, and we're hoping to get her in the studio to shed some light on who she is and how she's managed to stay the top dog for so long. And by top dog, I am not referring to her appearance, I assure you. I have enough women in this town who want to kill me, so I'd hate to add one who could do it with her bare hands to the list. So stay tuned for that interview, folks. It's sure to be a real treat. Speaking of the Latina Eagle, I think our next musical number should be something with a Latin flair. Welcome back to the Victor Jones Radio Hour, brought to you by Oyster Brand Toothpaste. On behalf of our sponsor, I've been asked to read the following statement issued by their PR department. Quote, "Any claims that Oyster Brand products are detrimental to the user's health, or that Oyster Brand Limited is siphoning funds into cultic activities are unfounded and will be met with prosecution if perpetuated." Unquote. No doubt this is in reference to recent allegations leveled against Oyster Brand Limited regarding the effectiveness of their products, and claims that their company logo contains hidden symbols and iconography of a Masonic or Satanic nature. Since I want to keep my show on the air, I abstain from any commentary, but I'd also like to remind my lovely audience that I am not a direct employee of Oyster Brand, even though they are my primary sponsor. So no more dwelling on this topic. On to other subjects. During that catchy number, my producers informed me of breaking news. An attempted robbery of Lumiere's diamond and jewelry shop on the corner of Stone and Digman was thwarted by a masked entity who, according to eyewitnesses, is not the Enigma. This newcomer was described by the store clerk as wearing a long hooded cloak colored military green, his face covered by a gas mask. Apparently, the vigilante implemented some form of gas weapon on the trio of would-be robbers as they made their getaway. All 5 were reported dead, and although an autopsy has yet to be performed, medical experts on the scene suspect the use of mustard gas. This fatal encounter stands in stark contrast to the Enigma's usual style of keeping casualties to a minimum. As you can imagine, the identity of this new masked mystery man remains unknown. No doubt we'll have more to report on by next week's show. Investigations of any connection between the Devil's Lane abductions and Cobalt Labs continues to be stonewalled. To date, any effort by the New Aberdeen Police Department to search the grounds has been met with delays, obstructions, and according to some rumors, bribery. Due to this frustrating lack of progress, Commissioner Frank Oddsworth has placed 4 of the department's patrol Zeppelins on 24-hour surveillance of the area surrounding the labs as of Monday morning. Notably, there has been a significant drop in disappearances on the Devil's Lane since the patrol began, but Commissioner Oddsworth warns that it is too soon to tell if this is coincidence or potentially damning evidence. It seems that Lake Orr isn't the only place where strange seismic activity has recently been occurring, but this new event has no lake monster to pin the disturbance on. Since last Saturday, hikers have been reporting instances of rumbling and general disturbance in the mountain range which borders our city to the north. At least one of these events resulted in a minor landslide, though no debris reached the city itself. A few reported hearing, quote, sounds of drilling, unquote, in concurrence with the activity. What this could possibly be, we currently have no idea. Cobalt Labs, being under investigation, has been unable to send a research party to the mountains, so for the moment, this anomaly remains completely unexplained. Part of me wonders if these are the residents of Captain Joseph Blythe's alleged underground city tunneling their way up to meet us. If true, it looks like Joe just might have the last laugh after all. Time for one last musical number, perhaps a classical piece. The show's almost over, folks, but before we go, there's one last bit of breaking news. There has apparently been an explosion at Cobalt Labs during the last number. No doubt many of you saw, heard, or even felt the blast mere moments ago. The cause of the blast is unknown, but a statement was immediately issued, a little too quickly if you ask me, assuring that there will be no hazardous fallout from the event. Take that however you want, folks, but Vic Jones will be staying inside the next time it rains in New Aberdeen. This has been the Victor Jones Radio Hour, brought to you by Oyster Brand Toothpaste. On behalf of my loyal crew, I'm Victor Jones. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week. The New Aberdeen Tapes, Episode 3, Stranger Things Afoot. Written, performed, and edited by Ryan Collins. Featuring the following music available through Creative Commons and YouTube Creator Studios. 1940s Slow Dance by Doug Maxwell. That Kid in 4th Grade Who Really Liked the Denver Broncos by Chris Zabriskie. Back on Track Latinesque by Kevin MacLeod. Moonlight Sonata by Ludwig van Beethoven. Thank you all for listening.